If you've considered starting a B2B lead generation agency, you're going to really like this video. My name is Michael, and I've grown a B2B lead generation agency called Done For You Meetings to over $1 million in sales, and I've had the opportunity to work with even name brand Fortune 500 companies. Now, I get asked a lot how I grew this business, and this video is number one in a series where I'm going to answer that question. Now, to start this series off, I want to answer the question of what is B2B lead generation? So we're going to talk about what it is as a whole, what a B2B lead generation agency is, what type of services you can offer, platforms you can offer them on, as well as some of the deciding factors that led me to starting a B2B lead generation agency, even after having numerous agencies before. So let's go ahead and hop into my digital whiteboard here where I can break it down for you step by step. Let's get into it. All right, here we are on this beautiful whiteboard I've put together with my middle school graphic design skills. Now, nonetheless, I promise the content's good. And by the end of this video, I think you're going to be very confident in understanding what B2B lead generation is and also some of the reasons you might want to consider it for starting an agency. So let's answer the first question here. And the first question is, what is B2B lead generation? Well, very simply, businesses need leads to then convert into customers. Customers are revenue, and revenue keeps everything going. So this is what we consider top of funnel. A lot of times in marketing, you hear about a funnel, and maybe you don't really know what that is. Essentially, all that means is at the top here, I have people that are interested. Through conversations and qualifying, I move them down to my sales process, having phone calls, proposals, meetings, and eventually they pay and become a customer. So it is the very top of that funnel. Now, there's a lot of ways to do lead generation, and frankly, most of them work, although some will work better or worse depending on your skill set, what you're selling, who you're selling to. But let's go through some of the main ones. We have email. This is obviously what I do the most if you've watched my channel. I love cold email. I think it's a great way to get clients and it works for almost every business. Next, we have calls. This could be cold SMS or cold calling. I don't talk much about cold SMS because of regulation. However, cold calling is one of the oldest lead gen channels that still works to this day. Next, we have the social media DMs. You can do Instagram DMs, even though there are limitations. Same thing with LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a B2B social media platform, so naturally there's a lot of lead gen on it. We have Twitter DMs where it's basically the Wild West. You can do whatever you want. Facebook DMs, and even in-person prospecting or lead generation. I will use those words kind of interchangeably in this video. There's still a lot of money to be made going to trade shows, shaking hands, networking, and starting conversations that way. So now, a lot of people think that lead generation is, hey, let's send out a message, send people a Stripe link, and they just buy. Not really. Maybe if low ticket things are in very weird scenarios, but generally your goal here is just to go to a conversation, right? We want somebody to have a conversation with you about your products and services. Now, from there, we move them down what we call a pipeline. Now, a pipeline is your sales process. Now, this could mean a lot of things depending on how much what you sell is, who you're selling to, how big of a company, but generally speaking, you have a call, maybe a proposal, you have some back and forth questions, a follow-up meeting, maybe proposal revisions, you have a contract signed, you get your payment, and you onboard the client. This is a pipeline. Now, this pipeline is very important because you always want people in it. If you don't have people in your pipeline, you can't have predictable revenue, you can't have predictable cash flow, and you can't pay your team predictably. So especially for larger businesses where it's not just an owner and operator, this pipeline is incredibly important. As if they get too busy on client work and don't have a new pipeline and they lose clients, it's a bad position. Or on the other hand, they need to manage how many people go in their pipeline because they don't want to be too overwhelmed either. So the pipeline is something we're going to talk a lot about in this series, and it's a piece of terminology that's going to be overall very good to know if you're getting into B2B lead gen. Now, at the end of a pipeline is a customer, which obviously results in revenue, right? The whole goal here is to make money for ideally everyone, right? We want to make money and we want our clients to make money. So that is what B2B lead gen is. It's starting conversations with relevant people, and I emphasize relevant, want to start conversations with people that need and want what we do, that go through a qualifying process, Q&A process, and eventually become our customers. So what is a B2B lead generation agency? You may have heard this as a B2B growth partner. a B2B lead gen agency, lead generation agency, cold email agency, LinkedIn agency, appointment setting agency. There's a lot of terminology in the B2B world. A lot of it's just made up stuff that's been rebranding. I mean, B2B lead gen is not new. People have been doing this for 50 years, before I was born, right? This is more trendy on YouTube now, and it's a conversation that's come up a lot more recently, but it's not new. It's been around, it's tried and true. So a lead generation is essentially where you do one or all of these things, it depends, and you get your clients conversations. So maybe you're doing email for them, maybe you're doing calls, maybe you're doing calls and email, maybe you're doing all of it. That is your job. Your job is to go up into the point where they have a conversation, and here is your prospects pipeline where you want to make sure it's full. That way either the owner operator or the SDRs, BDRs, those are kind of interchangeable appointment setters of the company you're working with, can turn people into customers. And generally you're paid on a lead level. You're paid for that initial conversation, and then your client's obviously getting paid when they have someone go through your pipeline and become a customer. So how do the economics of this business model work? Well, it's very simple. You have your client's revenue at the very top. That's how much money is coming in because of your campaigns, minus their expenses. As you know, some industries are going to have a 10% margin, and others are going to have a 95% margin. So that gets us to your client's net, not considering your cost. I'm talking about here is their service, here is the cost to fulfill, not considering cost of lead gen, then minus your cost, and that gets you sustainability here. Now, if you make your client $100,000 in revenue, you charge them $100,000, but their margin's 50%, meaning they made $50,000, well, it's not sustainable. You need to have your cost be lower than your client's net profit if you want this to be sustainable. That is the whole model. Now, a lot of people do not get this right. They make money and their client makes some, but they don't make enough to continue, right? Your client's also not going to maintain the relationship with you if they make $500 a month. Just to keep an open channel of communication and to pay attention to what you're doing is not worth it. So that is the equation where we're figuring out what do we need to do, considering what our client's revenue profit is to make this a sustainable relationship. But that is the model. Now, there's a lot of different things you can do inside this model. So let's talk about that. Now, we already know that there's different channels, and I didn't even link all of them here. There's technically Upwork, there's physical mail, there's a lot of prospecting channels. But you don't need to do all of these or just one or like one particular thing. There's a lot of stuff you can do. So let's talk a little bit about those actual services you can offer. Now, the first thing we have here is managed lead generation or prospecting services. This is where you are doing managed services. Managed services just means that it's a done for you or DFY offer. That's kind of how our agency got the name DFY Meetings, if you've seen it before. And there's a few different types of things you can do even within this. So starting off, it could be full cycle. There's some people where they'll generate the leads, they'll do the appointment setting. Sometimes they'll even do the sales. That would be like full cycle. Then we have semi-cycle. This might be we generate the leads and do appointment setting, or we set up the tech stack and generate the leads. There is no box you have to fit in. You can put together whatever things you want as long as there's demand. Or you could do a single part where like we just send out emails, or we just do cold calls. We don't do appointment setting or sales. You could do one platform, meaning you just do email. You could do a few platforms, maybe you do email, LinkedIn. Or you could build a more account-based marketing team where you have, let's say, virtual assistants to do all of these platforms to a few people. There isn't a right or wrong. It just depends on what you want to do and what prospects will pay for. Now, obviously, I'm going to have recommendations here as we go on, but I want to plant the seed that there isn't a box you need to fit in. Now, beyond managed services, you can do a few more things. You can do consulting. This could be where you look at a client's campaign, you make suggestions, make a roadmap, maybe you audit their copy. You're essentially just providing non-done for you, either do it yourself or done with you services to improve their campaigns. And again, this could be on any platform, on any level. It could be just appointment setting, just tech stack, just deliverability, whatever. The third thing we could do is what I call a setup or training. This is a lot of what I do, where I'll work with companies to build out their infrastructure. That would be to build out this outbound net, we'll call it, the pipeline process, sales process, and everything else, where the goal is for them to do this in-house and have their team run it. We'll talk about why that's a good model later, but that's mainly what I do. And I do a little bit of all of this, but that's the core moneymaker for me. And then the fourth thing is we can do specialization in a single part. So for example, we could do LinkedIn account setup. Now, I won't get into why that's important, but setting up multiple accounts on LinkedIn can be hard. We could do cold email deliverability. You could say, hey, you're doing cold email, but 40% of your emails are in spam. I can get that 10%. That's really valuable for someone doing this at scale. We could even do phone deliverability. Most people don't know this is a thing, but like when you get a cold call and it says scam likely, people don't answer that. So you need to warm up your phone numbers. You could do list building. You could say, hey, I build lists for companies doing LinkedIn or mail or cold calling, really whatever you want it to be. You could just do appointment setting. You could have them get the leads and you just do a really good job turning as many of those leads as possible into calls. We could do sales process optimization. We could say, hey, we'll build out a sales process where more no-shows, cancellations turn back into meetings. Or we could even do lead reactivation. Give me all of your dead leads that haven't answered you in the last year, and I'll get them back on the phone and excited to buy. You could do a lot of things here. B2B lead generation is broad. So I like to emphasize this because I see people where they look at a business model on YouTube and they think that's how it is. That's not the case. You can do whatever you want. Now, following a proven path is often a good option, but please do be creative here, because being creative is how you're going to run a competition. Now, let's move on to the next thing. Why did I choose a B2B lead generation agency, and why I think you should seriously consider starting one too? Now, I may have it in the thumbnail or in the description or in the title because marketing. However, there is not one business model that's good for everybody. Everybody is different. If we were all the same, then I don't know, this video wouldn't exist, right? But I do think that if you're like, I'm starting out my agency journey and I'm looking at AI automation agencies, the whole growth partner thing, I'm looking at Facebook ads for e-com, lead gen for home service, or maybe you have an agency and you're just not satisfied with it, I do really think this is something you should consider. Now, let's talk about why. Now, here I have 11 questions that I like to answer myself when I'm considering a service, a niche, an audience, a new agency. So I want to go through each of them and I want to answer them for you the best I can. And for the ones that are more personal, I want to at least plant the seed and the thought process so you can independently do this. Now, the first one here is, does the market need and want it? If they need it but don't want it, that's not good. And if they want it but don't need it, that's not good. Does the market need and let's even go here and let's emphasize that and. Let's put this in red. Let's underline it. Do they need and want it? Now, B2B lead generation. Everybody needs it. Everybody, right? Now, it doesn't mean that some aren't already doing it independently well, but everybody needs it. There is no B2B business. And when I say B2B, please do not think just marketing agencies. This could be financial services. This could be software. This could be marketing agencies, consulting agencies, architecture, construction, manufacturing, insurance. B2B is a massive category. They all need lead generation, and most want it too. Now, you will find that there is so much content on the internet around how to do lead generation, how to get clients. That's because it's the hardest thing to do in starting, and it's a hard thing to maintain. There are very, very few businesses where they have so many clients and so many leads, but they don't need it. Now, obviously, there are some, and that's fine, but I would bet it's less than 5%. And I have found like this to be so easy to sell because people really need it. Now, I have had a couple businesses before. I had an influencer agency I grew and sold. I had a BPO I grew and sold. I had a Facebook ads agency for e-com. I didn't sell it, it shut down. All of those things were hard to sell or more difficult. This has been the easiest because people really, really do need it. And there's also such a close tie-in to revenue, which we'll get to the second question here. Will people pay a lot for it? Now, the first agency course I ever took was by a guy named Iman Gadzhi. You've probably seen him on YouTube. Good guy, really smart. And he talked a lot about the two categorizations broadly of services. We have a convenience offer and an opportunity offer. A convenience offer is something that I could do myself and doesn't necessarily make me money. Maybe it does, but I just don't want to do it. This would be like making this board right here, right? This is not like skilled work. I just don't want to do it. So would I pay someone to do it to not do it? Yeah. Now, opportunity offer is like, I'm going to show you something that's skilled. I'm going to do it for you. You probably couldn't do this unless you took time to learn it, and it's going to make you money. It's an opportunity. Now, this is an opportunity offer. B2B lead generation in the truest sense leads to revenue. So will people pay a lot for it? Yes. If they can pay you $1 and make $2, they will continue paying you. So will people pay a lot for it? Yes. This is something where you can justify pretty high prices if you're good at what you do, because they will make money. On the other end, for let's say software design or web development, although these are important things, it's harder to justify because the ROI is less strict. Having a nice website, unless you have tons of traffic, is like hard to justify what that's worth. Where I get you 10 leads, it costs you this much money. Of those 10 leads, one pays you, your average customer is worth this, your net is this. It's very easy to calculate. Now let's even go back really quick here. This is the calculation. That's why it's so important. You can charge whatever you want as long as it is sustainable for your client. So the better you are, the more you can charge here. Also, the type of business you sell to matters a lot. If somebody is selling something that's $1 million versus 1,000, it's going to be harder to sell a thing that's $1 million. But when they do, they're going to make a lot more money than the person who sells something that's $1,000, right? So will people pay a lot for it? Yes, people will pay a lot for it. Is it profitable? Now, if you can generate your clients leads and it's profitable for them, but it's not profitable for you, that's not a good thing. So is outreach profitable? Now, this will obviously depend on how you structure your business. But from my experience and from many of my colleagues' experiences, you can check out the interviews I've done with other guys in B2B Lead Gen. It is very profitable. It is very realistic that you can run a B2B lead generation agency between a 40 to 70% margin, which is pretty good. I mean, people who say 90% margins, they're probably doing coaching, and it is profitable. The margins are healthy. People need it. There's room for everybody to make money here when done right. So yes, it is profitable. And this is one that is important to me, maybe not to everybody, but I really care about this, and that is, will this skill transfer? Now, if you're watching my video, I'm going to bet that at least 20% of you have probably failed with some previous business model. Like drop shipping is like one of the go-to ones people start with. They fail when they start an agency. Like the question then is, was that a waste? Well, you learned how to do website development, source products, write description, maybe take photos, run ads. Like you learned so many skills that are transferable. You probably learned more failing in drop shipping and losing $5,000 than you did in school. Actually, it's probably not true, but it was maybe more money-making relevant information. So will the skill transfer? Yes. Like I run a B2B lead generation agency right now. If I just moved into roofing, commercial roofing, I would have leads immediately. I am very good at B2B lead generation, and that will carry through to me either in another job, if I want to have a job, in another business, freelance, whatever. I will never struggle with leads because I have become very good at B2B lead generation. And if you master this skill, you shouldn't either. You could start in software. You could start a commercial services, like a home service, but for commercial. You could do, I don't know, consulting firm, accounting firm. You could be a top rated employee and make 200 grand plus $100K bonus, right? There is so many ways to transfer this skill. So yes, this skill is highly transferable. Now, next is, have others done this? This is a great thing to ask, right? Now, there obviously are like some random blue oceans where I can't find anybody, but like having some competition means there's money. Have people done this? Yes. So just briefly here, I want to pull up a couple examples of some of the bigger B2B lead gen agencies. We have Science here. These guys are really big doing B2B lead gen. We have Belkins, who's a company that I respect a lot. They have some amazing case studies and data. Like if you're in B2B lead gen, go ahead and like look through their information here. They have like a lot of stuff that they just give away for free, which is really helpful. They're so pro. These are all multiple millions a year B2B lead gen agencies. And a little bit smaller, but hey, it's me, Done For You Meetings. And by the way, this is a great time to mention, if you have a sales team and you're doing more than $1 million a year and you want us to help you for cold email, check out Done For You Meetings. If you're a smaller business and you want help building out your own lead generation systems, or you want to offer lead generation as a service, my consulting program, Grow B2B. But yes, others are doing this profitably. Some are doing it at a massive enterprise scale of huge teams, offices making millions a year, like those first three examples. And then there's other people like me where I make a pretty good income doing this. And I know plenty of other people like me who have a online remote team and make good income doing this. So have others done this? Yes, others have done this. I can attest to it. I've done millions of revenue doing this, and I've made quite a lot of money as well. Now, the sixth question here is, how saturated is this market? There are some things that, due to popularity online or just a surge of people getting into the space, they become saturated. Now, I don't really think anything is impossible. There's always ways to get around saturation, but like email marketing for e-com, Facebook ads for e-com, or let's say lead gen for realtors, or lead gen for solar. These things are competitive. There's a lot of people in them, right? That's mainly due to like a ton of YouTube videos and content saying, hey, sell to these niches. Now, is B2B lead gen saturated? My answer, in one word, no. Is there competition? Yes. But most people are competing in the same spaces. Again, B2B lead gen is so broad. Insurance, manufacturing, medical devices. We have sanitation services. We have commercial services. We have consulting firms. We have architectures, engineers, 3D rendering. It is so broad. And most of the competition is between like marketing agencies and software, because most people just think, hey, one thing, stop there. So it is not that saturated. It's not that saturated. Like, I can tell you, I run campaigns for a lot of companies, and B2B lead gen campaigns, cold email, are not that hard to get meetings for. A lot of people need it, and there is not that much good competition, especially in markets that are less competitive. And if you need help with niches, by the way, I have a video on my channel ranking 50 niches. It's like an hour long. It took me forever. So check that out if you do want to. But yeah, question number 6, how saturated is it? Yes, there is some competition, nowhere near as much as other niches, services, industries, and there is so much room to grow because so many people need this. Number 7 is, can this be sustainable / will I have a high LTV, which means a lifetime value, the total amount of revenue clients worth from the point they start to drop on average, and retention rate. How long does someone stay? Let's go back to the golden equation. Now, if you are working with a freelancer where they have a fixed capacity or a tiny agency, there is a stopping point when they're full. But if you're working with a bigger team, they normally always want lead gen and are willing to recruit. So how sustainable is it? If my client can spend $1 with me and make 2, they will sustain. So it is incredibly sustainable. So sustainable. You can have clients for years, and I have had clients for years. Now, if they've never done marketing, they don't have product market fit, they don't know their ICP, ideal customer persona, this can be less so. But if you're working with a legitimate company that's done marketing, has proven their offer, knows their ICP, you can make them a lot of money and they can make you a lot of money, and you can have a high retention. So it is very sustainable. Next one is this temporary? Like, is this a hype thing that's going to go away? No. B2B lead gen has been around since like the 80s or 90s. If you talk to your grandparents and they worked in B2B back in their day, there was B2B lead generation. It was just different. It was trade shows. It was handshaking. This is not going away. Would it be possible to scale? Yes. There are scaled B2B lead gen agencies. SoPro, Belkin, Science. Now, will it make sense for you to scale? That depends. Comes down to, what do you want in life? I don't want 100 employees. I got like 20. I'm happy. I got good clients. I'm happy. I'm living life. I'm traveling. Things are good. I don't want a big team. Could I scale to a big team if I wanted to? Yeah, definitely I could. So it is scalable, but like any service business, margins will go down as you scale, and that's the truth of it. So you need to decide, do I want higher margins, fewer clients, better relationships, or do I want like a big team in office? There's not a right or wrong answer. This is a personal question you need to think about. 10 is, what is the barrier to entry? Low. Like, starting this business can literally be free. Now, technically, you should have like some domains, emails, software, website. Like the overhead is probably like $100 to $400 a month starting, but you could do it for free. So it is a low barrier to entry. That means there are a lot of people that start this and fail because it's easy to start. It's a lot harder to start in manufacturing because you need a facility and product and there's regulation, blah, blah, blah. A marketing agency is low barrier to entry. It's cheap to start. That does mean a lot of people start and fail because it doesn't take much to start, but it's also a good thing because it's not super expensive. You don't need to invest $1 million. So the barrier to entry is low. And then 11, is this going to go away with AI technical changes? Will AI and tech change cold email? Specifically, let's talk about AI first. Yes, it will change cold email, but if you know how to use AI with cold email or lead gen, people will still pay you. Second, technical changes. Deliverability. Deliverability always changes for calls, for LinkedIn, for email. If you stay up to date and are proactive, you will continue to thrive. People who get lazy and we try to do the same things that worked in 2018 fail. If you are proactive, you can maintain it. My first cold email I ever sent was in 2014. Cold email is still just as viable as it was then. Now I want to make a point here. I'm going to go to my oldest video, which I actually deleted my oldest videos. They're way too cringy. But this is one of them I did keep, even though the first one was like 8 years ago. It's called How to Get Social Media Marketing Agency Clients. Now I have an ad here because I don't want to pay YouTube $10 a month. But I'll get to my point here. People were talking about when I posted this, oh, cold email's dead, it doesn't work anymore. And literally here I'm talking about cold email. And at the time I remember people saying, yeah, cold email's saturated. This is 6 years ago. Like, people always say everything's saturated because people like to whine. Cold email is not going away. Now, is the advice in this video good anymore? Watch my new stuff. But I'm keeping it here mainly for social proof. So, is it going to go away? No, I don't think so. I'd be really surprised if it does. Actually, it never will, but it will change, right? You're going to be fine if you're proactive and bright. An announcement, then a couple final things to finish off this video, which is probably like 30 minutes. But I want this to be like a really good series. And that's the announcement. I'm thinking about making this a series. I thought of 10 videos. This first one, what is B2B lead gen, how to start, how to do pricing, what niches and industries to go after, how to onboard clients, do fulfillment, how to scale, a Q&A session where I'll answer the most common questions. By the way, leave them in the description, not description, leave them in the comments. Talk about how we can work together. And then finally, like a master video that will be like 5 to 10 hours, like the ultimate goal on how I was able to hit 80 grand a month peak revenue with my lead gen agency. Now, 3 final things here. Questions or ideas? Do you want to see a series? What questions do you have? Comments. I will check them out. Do you want to learn more about B2B lead gen? I will have a couple of videos that are a great place to start in the description. And lastly, if you do want to grow a B2B lead generation agency, I am a sales guy. This video is to help, but it's to market. I have a program called Grow B2B. We work with 1 of 2 people. Person 1, they want to start and grow a B2B lead generation agency. Person 2, they have another type of business and they just want to add on B2B lead gen as part of it. If you are either of these people, this program costs less than a college course. It shows what I figured out over the last 10 years, spending tens of thousands on courses, mentorships, hundreds of thousands on team members and experiments, and it boils it down into one-on-one calls, group calls, and course content. It's fair, book a call if you want to move really fast. Now, that was a long video, but I think it'll be very helpful for some of you. So I'm glad it was long and thorough because I want to see you guys do well, right? Like I do this, yes, for business, but also for fun and to help. So if you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, and I will see you in the next one.